Hey everybody, Tamara Williams Van Horn with Auntie Corn Leadership Strategies. How are you? Um, I was scrolling today and found something from a creator, a cutie pock creator. If you don't know what cutie pock means, it's queer and trans people of color. A cutie pock creator, and I think it was cutie pock mental health. I'm pretty sure that was the channel, the account. And it said something to the extent of, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm shifting my frame from I hate myself to I am feeling hated. And that just really sat with me. Um, it's been rough. It's How y'all been? It's been rough over here. Um, it's a combination of things. It's a combination of season cycling and, fall kind of. The days get shorter, it gets darker earlier. My seasons continue to evolve. Not every physical change that I'm experiencing thrills me, to say the very least. And then everything that's going on around us really uh, calls into question, like, some of the foundations and pillars that I personally am grounded in. And so I've been like really hard on myself these last few days, and consequently pretty hard on others, not even intentionally, but just as kind of, if I'm going to hold myself to this very high standard, then of course I should be holding others to a very high standard. And when I saw that post, what really struck me is that is the internalized depression coming out. Continuing my scroll, I was on a different social media platform. Yes, I spend more time than probably is optimal on different platforms, but I was on a different platform and I saw a uh, Hector Ramirez. Hector Ramirez is this amazing poet, organizer, facilitator, um, convener who is helping us get in touch with our imaginations. And he was talking about the four eyes of oppression, and he introduced a fifth eye. So if you don't know the four eyes of oppression, it's like a really solid framework in social justice circles, social justice work, social justice theory. And it helps it's an analytic framework. It helps us see the different levels upon which oppression can operate. I live near an airport, so you'll hear little pieces of planes going by and people are doing their yard work and all of those things, because I live in a place, and I live in a place that is alive. And these days I'm really tapping into my connection with the aliveness of the places that I inhabit, because just in case that's not always the case, I want to appreciate and be grounded in gratitude for aliveness and for places that we feel safe, places that feel safe enough to put a small plane in the air, places that are clean enough to have people out in their yards and doing yard work and playing in parks and all of that kind of a thing. But anyway, back to the four eyes as a social justice analytical framework. It starts with the ideological. So that's way up there. These big honking ideas. These ideas that oppress all of us. The thing I think most people don't understand about oppression is that it is not limited to the target. Oppression always reduces the oppressor as well, as attempts to reduce the oppressed and restrict the oppressed. So, take that for what it's worth. And I'm not even going into the analytics. Like, there are all these vectors of oppression that don't need to be gone into right now. But I really want to just tell you a little bit about this framework, because there's an exciting piece that Hector has added to the four eyes of oppression. So there's ideological. That's the big honkin' meta level, like 10,000 feet, right? Global. It's in the ideas, it's in our norms, it's the stuff that gets culturally cemented and so taken for granted that sometimes it can be really, really hard to tease out. The next level is institutional. So institutional oppression is a step inward from that ideological. It takes those ideas and then concretizes them into social practices. And those social practices are 100% facilitated through the institutions that construct and kind of make pathways for our existence in this modern life. So institutions can be educational institutions, our schools, our education system, our systems of governance, our military, and other pieces of the polity, our families, our families, and what we call families, and who gets to be a family is an institution. Religion and like organized formal networks for spiritual life are institutions. Economics and the economic field, trade and commerce, and how we exchange goods and services and currency. Those are all institutions, and all of those, right, can be sites of oppression. If you have experienced oppression, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm really talking to you right now. Or if you can understand oppression, then you're who I'm talking to. Below that is the interpersonal. That's the level of oppression that most of us are familiar with and willing to see, at least for other folks. Interpersonal oppression is those, interactions. It's at the interactive level. It's person to person. If I sneeze, I'm sorry. There we go. Interactions and, day-to-day slights, discrimination. A person needs to make the decision that a name sounds too ethnic. A person has to cross the street to avoid an unsavory character walking towards them. Though that's, the way we often see interpersonal oppression. And then, as a result of living in the world and swimming in the water and all of those kinds of things, we get to the fourth eye, which is internalized. We take on the beliefs, the attitudes, we respond of culture. We respond to institutions. We respond to interpersonal incidences. We internalize and operate from the other three oppressions kind of working. Because none of us are in a vacuum. None of us can completely say oppression at the ideological level doesn't touch me. If you're a woman, you can't control how ideas about women impact how institutions structure or restrict women's involvement in those institutions, which means that the interpersonal relationships and interpersonal interactions that you have 100% can't be separated. And you might experience discrimination from a person based on these ideas and these institutions that uphold these ideas. And that means that you internalize some of that stuff. And it takes vigilance and resistance and decolonization and liberation theories and practices and spiritual theories and practices. And it takes a lot of energy and work and investment to not get fully caught up. But we all have it. We all have some internalized oppression, and that impacts our lives. So those are the 4 eyes. And I've taught with the 4 eyes lots of times. I've facilitated and shown people how the 4 eyes have operated in their institutions and in their organizations. And Hector has added a 5th eye. It's so sunny, that's why I'm like staring down at you. I would be up in the sky, but it's just too sunny with the glare. The 5th eye is imaginary. And I just really needed that additional eye today, especially going alongside the first quote from QTPOC Mental Health, QTPOC Mental Health. Hector's post really helped me to insert the imaginary, how colonization, how enslavement, how patriarchy has limited the imaginations of people who are called women, who are labeled women, who are treated as women. How people can understand the construct of women. And I'm just using women as a through example. I mean, insert a vector by which oppression is leveraged. Sorry, I was trying to think of 2 different words, levered and leveraged, and couldn't decide. At any rate, the 5th eye of the imaginary is really where I realize I have been struggling. And it comes from that internalized place, right? You can have all the degrees, you can know all the stuff, you can cite the thinkers and the speakers, and you can be a thinker and a speaker and a writer and a griot and a scribe and all of that, and still slide, because oppression does not sleep. It doesn't take a day off. And a lot of the ways that I've been feeling restricted lately has a lot to do with what is being called in some circles Christian. And like, I was raised in a sect of Christian thought belief. Yes, plain, yes. Just let that roll. I was raised in a Christian sect. I was raised to be a Christian. I was raised alongside family. So my custodial parent, made sure that my spiritual foundation was that of a person who thought about Jesus Christ and followed Jesus Christ's ethic and model, and it was hard. It was hard because I wanted questions answered that never got answered. It was hard because questioning was often met with anger and frustration. And, I was just left feeling like it wasn't okay to ask. It wasn't okay to doubt. It wasn't okay to question. It, like, just accept, or like I was broken. Like, if it was so easy for other people to accept and obey and not question, then why was it so difficult for me? Why wasn't I experiencing the things that folks said I should experience? But the one thing that my my early spiritual education did not do is make me get baptized. Um, the family worships in a way that baptism should be a very conscious, sober choice where someone who understands what they are getting into um, makes the decision and then seeks baptism for themselves in their own time. So I've never been baptized. And once I got old enough to not have to attend those services anymore, I pretty much decided that I needed to explore outside of that, not for a personal belief system. Strangely enough, my personal beliefs have always been personal, and it hasn't really been necessary for me to construct my life within an organized religious structure. I don't need a church home. I don't need regular readings of the Bible in part or in full. I think the Jesus that was talked about was like a rad dude, and I think that a lot of the stuff that he talked about are things that are good for everyone to think about and to kind of consider for themselves as practices. But where that leaves me is also looking at what other people call Christian, what the people I used to worship with called Christian, and the actions that they engaged in, and holding those up against each other. I'm just left with not only lots of questions that never got answered, but a lot of fear and frustration. The fear comes from really feeling like it is not okay to believe anything else right now. And there's just such a big world. And there's just so many histories that people in this big world come from. And I don't think it's fair for one group to get to say our way is right, your way is wrong, and our interpretation of that way is the only way, and we will eliminate you from the face of the planet if you don't agree. That scares me, and it frustrates me, because that's not what I remember being taught about who Jesus was and what he wants for the rest of us. So trying to imagine myself outside of a Christian framework has been really hard, and it's brought with it a lot of fear and a lot of that other internalized oppression. Because once again, I feel like if I were good enough in some ways, that maybe I could be the person who could reason with these folks. And, you know, that's like magical thinking. That's a very childlike stance to take. But being able to admit that and acknowledge that actually allows me to step outside of the fear imaginary and into a more expansive imaginary, which actually is less active. It's more still. It's less observant. One might say that the hypervigilance is not helping anyone. So it is about getting still. It is about seeking nature. It is about appreciating what is and what hasn't changed yet, and leaning towards what can't be touched, what no one can take away. So I've been considering delving into a read of Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Uh, and if anybody knows of any texts like that that have been written by Black women, I would love, or Black non-binary or queer people, I would love, 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 love to read what that ethos, that philosophy looks like from the lens of a person who has grown up Black. Um, but for now, Viktor Frankl is a resource, and um, so I've just been thinking about that, and I wanted to chat with you all about it. It was on my mind. Tomorrow's Thoughts and Shares, that's what we call this. And I wanted to ask you a few questions. So one, do you know the four eyes of oppression? And what do you think of the fifth eye? Two, how you doing? Like, for real, how's your heart? How's your spirit? How's your motivation? How's your community? How you doing? I really want to know. And three, what's one small thing you can do today to connect with the expansive imaginary? And with that, I have talked for 21 minutes. Wow. I think this might be one of the longest videos I've created so far. So like, subscribe, share with someone who is a deep thinker or is a social justice educator, all of those things. And let's engage. Let's talk in the chat. In the comments. With that, I will say adios and have a wonderful day, and just try and get out in nature and just appreciate grass or a tree or a rabbit today. I'll talk to you soon.